our agenda will be from today from 1 to 3. And of course, a few logistics before we get started. For the attendees, please feel free to, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A box. We will have people available to help assist with facilitating the answers to the questions. We also have a special translator for Yoruba or Spanish speaking for today's session. Please, for any of the sessions, we'll have the presenters present the information, and then we'll hold any questions to the end of each session. Everyone's camera is muted for the attendees, just for privacy purposes, and so everyone can focus on the presentation. So first up, we have Alexandra Diaz from Upward Global.
Hello. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you, Gabby, for the introduction. My name is Alexandra Diaz, and I'm the Outreach Associate at Upwardly Global. So I'm very excited to be here and happy to present the program. I'm going to start my presentation just in a few minutes. Please let me know if you see my my screen. Do you have access to my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's start. So thank you for having me. So Upwardly Global is a nonprofit. We have been here around for 20 years. And what we do is help immigrants, refugees, and asylees who has previous work authorization, who have studied in their home country. And when they come here to the US, we help them navigate the American work market and help them find a job. Okay, so let's get started. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will try to do my best to do to be a little bit slow and not to give you so much information, guys. So here's an agenda. We're gonna talk about the program and the organization, our services, the new platform that we have for all job seekers around the US that are looking for the job. We are here to support you. What are the next steps and how to contact me and the rest of the organization if you do have any questions, okay? So let's start. What is UpGlow? So as I told you before, we've been here for 20 years. We actually have offices in San Francisco, New York, Washington, and Chicago. And we started as we noticed that here in the US, there's a lot of amazing international talent, and there's a lot of employers that are looking for that talent, but they don't know where to find them. And for the newcomers or immigrants or refugees or asylees that are here and they do have this amazing work experience, they don't know how to connect with those employers. So we are like a bridge to connect employers and newcomers to successful professional opportunities. So we're 55 staff members. Actually, I'm from Colombia and I'm participated in the program and they helped me find my first job. So I could definitely know how an immigrant can struggle here in the US. It's not easy to start all over, but we are here to support you. So let's continue. About us. So we help folks that have been here for less than 5 years that have university degree from their home country and no professional experience here to the US to connect them with employers that are willing and looking for international talent. Last year, we helped place find a job for 1,000 folks, and we're talking about an average of $49K a year. So we're talking about amazing jobs that could lead to a professional career. We do have more than 50 employers partner. We're gonna talk about that later, but amazing employers that are looking for international talent. So we present our job seekers to them. And I think one of the most important traits is that this program is completely free for all job seekers that have all eligibility criteria. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about our services. So when you apply for a free job search program, we're gonna help you with your resume development. We're gonna help you with your job search. as we are going to connect each job seeker to a job coach that will help them along the way. And it's a one-on-one time. So each person that is accepted in the program has a job coach that will help them with interview development, with resume development every time the job seeker wants to apply, and we'll connect the job seekers to training opportunities. So all of these are our services, and as I told you before, everything is completely free. So we're looking for job seekers that have this particular eligibility criteria to be part of the program. We're looking for job seekers that are fully work authorized, that have a green card, or that they are refugees or asylees here in the US. Their cases have not to be granted, even though your case is still pending. If you do have a work authorization, that's enough. We're looking for job seekers that have a university degree outside the US. 4-year university degree or 2-year associate degree will serve as well. So they have to have that academic experience from outside the US. We're looking for folks or job seekers that understand English, that feel comfortable in an interview process. As the moment that you're accepted in Upglow, we're going to present you with different employers. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities for you to meet the employer and to do interviews. So we're looking for job seekers that feel comfortable with their English. As well, we're going to support anyone that wants to keep practice business English. We do have training purposes for that. As well, we're looking for job seekers that have been here in the US for less than 5 years. A very important message for you guys is that we do have a lot of exceptions. So each person that applies to our free job search program, we review in a case basis. So if someone's been here for more than 5 years and we can talk to the person, we can definitely do any exception. And the last eligibility criteria is that we're looking for folks that have no professional work experience here in the US, as we're really trying to help job seekers that are having a little bit of issue finding their first professional job. So those are the job seekers criteria that we are looking, and that they are going to be accepted in the program. Please, if you do have any questions related to this, at the end of the presentation, you're going to have my email. So if you want to talk about your particular case, I can call you and we can talk about how Upload can help you as much as possible, okay? In this slide, you're gonna see the application link. It's very easy. It's just to go to our website and you're gonna see a big in bold letters, find a job. As soon as you click in find a job, there's an application that you're gonna take between 10 to 15 minutes to follow through. And as soon as you apply, we start the onboarding process. So it's really simple. And if you do have any questions related to that, please use my email at the end of the presentation. So let's continue. As soon as you apply, these are the following steps. So, So first of all, apply on our website. After your application, between 1 or 2 days, we're gonna have a call, a 15-minute call to talk about your professional experience and what type of jobs you want to apply. Because especially we wanna connect you with a job coach that has experience in your professional background, as that job coach has more expertise in the field and how to get the job that you're looking for. As well, to make sure that you have the English skills and level that we need in order to be successful in this program, you're gonna have an English test. It's very easy, it's just 1-hour test where you're gonna be evaluated in your reading and listening comprehension, that's all. So as soon as we have that call and as soon as we have that test and you pass the test, we're gonna start with your resume development and practicing with your job coach. As well, as soon as the call and the test goes, you're gonna have free access to amazing training resources. And in week 2, you're gonna see the access will be marketing yourself. as you're gonna be invited to amazing networking events nowadays online for sure, but you're gonna have opportunities to talk with employers. So you're gonna know how to market yourself. As I know for professional experience that it's not easy to talk with someone that you don't know, or how to sell your accomplishments. So we are gonna teach you how to do it. As well, you're going to receive training in interviewing skills here in the US, as it's a little bit different from the rest of the markets outside the world. Networking skills and improve your resume. So all of the elements of your job search are gonna be completely covered. And in week 3, you're gonna have access to different training resources. We know that the market is a little bit slow. We're gonna talk about that later. But every job seeker that is accepted in a program, it has free access to resources like Coursera, the biggest educational platform in the world, and all certificates will be free. And those certificates, you will choose them with the help of job coach. So you're gonna have the best advice and the best and free access to these training resources. When we talk about the job coach that job seekers are going to have access to, you're going to have 3 main opportunities to work with your job coach. The first is that each job seeker is going to have a different strategy, as we know that each person has different goals, especially different professional fields. So you're gonna talk with your job coach and see where are you at, and what is happening with your job search. So you're gonna do a plan, and that's amazing because you're gonna feel supported along the way until you find a job. As well, every time that you want to apply, your job coach is gonna help you change your resume. And that's amazing because it's not easy to do a cover letter, especially each time that you apply. So this job coach will help you and sit with you to do that. And as well, we got you covered. If you have to have salary negotiations, we are gonna help you, and your job coach is gonna be supporting you along the way. And as well, it's very important for you to know that all of these services are completely free. When we talk about the partners that support Upperly Global, we talk about more than 50 amazing employers that, thanks to their help, all of our programs are free. Sorry. So we talk about partners as Visa, Chanel, LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, that help us have our free services, but at the same time are the main employers that hire the job seekers that we present to them. So as soon as you start working with your job coach, you're gonna have access to network events as we talked before. And in those networking events, you're gonna have different activities. Activities such as speed networking. So it's kind of speed dates. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this activities, talking to many volunteers that are part of the same employers. And you're gonna have an opportunity to talk about yourself, talk about what kind of jobs you want to apply for. And those volunteers are gonna help you actually even to connect you with folks that work in the organization that you want to apply. You're gonna practice their interview process with them. And a lot of the time in those events, employers or human resource folks or staff members participate. So they're always looking for new members to bring to the table and to hire. So those are amazing opportunities to meet people inside of your field and to know how to market yourself in front of people that you don't know. And believe me, a lot of amazing professional opportunities come from participating in those events. When we talk about the free access to training resources, I'm very excited about this because since COVID-19 started one of the positive notes is that a lot of our employers give us free access to all job seekers. So we're talking about amazing certificates that our job seekers can develop completely for free. So if you're interested in IT field, you're gonna have Microsoft, you're gonna have Coursera, you're gonna have Google, that will allow you to have amazing certificates completely free and improve your resume and your chances of starting an IT career, or actually nowadays as everything related to virtual gathering is so important. Every certificate that you want to perform in those partners that you see in the screen, are completely free for job seekers that are part of our program. And believe me, your resume will be so much better and you will feel more comfortable in interview process once you have different certificates that will allow you to be updated in any field. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the job market right now. As our main goal is to help job seekers to find a job, we know that this year is gonna be a little bit slow, the process. But I'm not here to give you bad news. I'm actually here to give you hope and to tell you that we do have a lot of things, positive things that are coming. For example, companies are still hiring. And I promise, if you go to LinkedIn, there's a lot of folks that are looking for international talent such as you. Professional jobs are more secure, even if we're surprised about it. Professional jobs that have educational background, educational development, they care a lot about their staff members, so they're more secure. And Upglow is here to help you be competitive. Even though you don't have the skills right now for a future employment that you want to apply, we can help you with the free training. Your job coach can help you change your resume. Your job coach can help you be prepared for any interview. So even though it will take a little longer to find the job of your dreams, we are here to support you and we adapt to the challenge as well. I'm gonna see if there's any questions in the box. Okay, anyhow, I'm gonna give 10 minutes at the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions, I'm here to help you. So due to the different changes that we have lately in this month, we noticed that not everyone, not any newcomer is eligible for our services, as we do have a strict eligibility criteria. So what we did is to develop a new free portal that have amazing training resources, and those resources are for everyone. Everyone. You don't have to be even an immigrant or newcomer. Even if you are born in the US, these resources are gonna help you be prepared for your job search. So I'm gonna teach you how to access them. And you're gonna find amazing curriculum in this free portal. I'm going to repeat, it's free, it's for everyone. It's a free training portal. So you're gonna have free resources for you. So you're gonna learn how to prepare the US job search. You're gonna learn if you want to practice your English skills. You're gonna have training to improve your English language communication skills in the business area. So that's a really cool training. It's a video, so you're not gonna get bored. And at the end, you as well have the chance to review and to practice your phone interview, as today is so important and 99% of the interviews are using the phone. So what a good way to prepare. So you're gonna have these 3 training resources that are 6 hours long, but completely free for everyone that goes to our website and just click in the link to have access. So as we talked before, people that can't benefit from this training are all job seekers, regardless of immigration status and including American citizens, intermediate level of English, and if you do have a vocational training or a technical certificate, or now students are gonna start looking for a job as well, this is a really cool resource for you guys. Just enter upperlyglobal.org. I'm going upperlyglobal.org, and in the digital job search tool, just click, answer 3 questions, and you're going to receive an email with the link and password to have access to the training portal, completely free until October 1st. So I'm really excited because normally we don't have training resources for everyone. So this is a great opportunity if you have extra time or you're preparing for your job search. We got you and we have the training resources for you. So what's next? So for job seekers, parents, or that are very interested in Upwardly Global and they're looking for a job, please visit our website. We have an amazing program, free, and you're gonna feel supported in your job search. We know it's hard, but we're here to help you. For folks that are not eligible or students that want to start with their job search, please go to our public platform. It's completely free and public until October 1st. And it's very useful, it's very fun, and you're not gonna be bored, I promise you that. And the third step, if you're looking for additional resources for job seekers, especially how COVID-19 is affecting the market, please, in our website, you're gonna find resources for job seekers as well, completely free. So please don't hesitate and to go and browse the website. You're gonna find a lot of information just for you. And here is my contact. I'm Alexandra at upwardlyglobal.org. If you do have any questions, if you wanna talk about your particular case, I can call you and we can talk. And I can explain what is Upwardly Global and what kind of resources we can help you. And even though you're not eligible, we can definitely see if we can do any exceptions. And we're here to help and support you. So please don't hesitate to contact me or the organization using the website. Thank you so much. I'm gonna see if anyone have any questions. I don't think, Gabby, I can't see the question. Did you see if there anyone has questions?
No, not at the moment. Thank you so much, Alexandra. That was a very informative presentation. We do thank you for your time.
Of course, if anyone has any question, Gabby has my information as well. We're here to help you and we are very excited to meet you. And thank you for your attention and inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. So we're gonna go and have a presentation by Stephen from MALDEF.
Hello, everybody. Just a moment. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna be pulling up my presentation. And thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity to speak today. My name is Stephen Monroy, and I am an attorney with MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. We are a nonprofit law firm that works to protect the rights of Latinos in the United States. So let me just launch my presentation now. So I'm here today to speak a little bit about professional licensing in Illinois. A little bit about my background. So I am the legislative staff attorney at MALDEF in the Midwest office, and part of my role is to see if there's any policies or other kinds of issues that we can help advocate on and to improve access for immigrants and others in Illinois. And previous to coming on board to MALDEF, I worked for the Department of Financial Professional Regulation. And while I was there, I found out that it was still an open question whether DACA recipients could become doctors, nurses, cosmetologists, and a variety of their licenses. So I worked with colleagues, including many that are on this webinar, to push for increased access. And so some of this information is a result of some of the laws that we've been pushing over the last 2 years. So to begin with, the most important thing to know about access and about a person's career path in Illinois, as in any other state, isn't just what the opportunities are, but also what the person wants to do. So, as you are planning for your futures, whether you are currently at the beginning of your high school experience, in the middle, or you're already in college, the the most important thing for you to know is that there are a lot of different doors that are open, and that your choice really matters. So I'd like to, begin to say, what would you like to do? Whether you'd like to become a doctor, whether you'd like to become a professional engineer, somebody that does HVAC. What is actually available is pretty extensive. So the most important thing is to be thinking, how do we end up in that career path? And then once we really know what the end goal is, we can really plan and see, okay, what would you need to become to work in one of those professions or those jobs? And then we can kind of reverse engineer that and say, how do we, will we need employment authorization? In most cases, the answer is yes. But in some cases, there's an opportunity for people to work for themselves. And then along with employment authorization, it's important to know whether something will take a professional license, because that would have to be, oftentimes there's an education component. So you'll have to have an associate's degree or a college or a full 4-year college bachelor's degree, or even more. So it's really important to be planning out to see, how will I get there in the next few years? In terms of education, like I mentioned, it's important to professional licensure that you have to have certain kinds of programs completed, but also just generally, it's really important for you to have the typical kind of education, or even more so, that is in that field. So you really want to stand out. And for instance, for somebody to become a nurse, they could get an associate's degree and become a nurse with an associate's degree. But nurses that have graduated with a bachelor's, a 4-year degree, tend to make more money once they're actually working. So there really is a trade-off about whether somebody is entering the workforce immediately, or whether they'll wait until they have another degree, or maybe even working while you have that 2-year degree and trying to get to that 4-year in the meantime. And in terms of education, so as we're all probably aware of that the programs for kindergarten through 12 have to be available to all in every state. And the reason for that is that there was actually a Supreme Court decision about 30 years ago that said that people had a right to equal access to education. So if public school is open for US citizens, for people who are legal permanent residents and such, has to be open for everybody. So in basically every state, including Illinois, people have this right to free primary and high school education all the way up to 12th grade. Where there's been a lot of advocacy in the last couple of years is that this right has never really been extended to college. And so it's really been up to the individual states and advocates that are pushing for this that then reach to say that there's this increased access. So I'm happy to say that in Illinois, individuals who graduated from high school in Illinois and lived there for majority of their high school experience and lived there with their parents, then they can usually get in-state tuition. But there's a few different things that might become challenging. For instance, if somebody is with parents that are not married together and they're living with one parent in one state, another parent in another state, we've seen that high schoolers just perhaps might not have in-state tuition because of the different circumstances. So as you're planning for college, really start speaking with your counselors of, okay, what are the requirements? Am I maybe at risk of not meeting the requirements for in-state tuition? Because as far as we've seen, once somebody graduates from high school, it's really tough, especially for undocumented students, to then get in-state residency. So we have to plan very carefully for this. And then a recent law that was passed in Illinois extends in-state financial assistance, which is to undocumented students. So this is different from in-state tuition, because in-state tuition means that people have pay the lower rate, versus somebody from out of state pays more for high school, or excuse me, for college. But the state financial aid, this is something extra on top of this. So students might not be able to get federal student aid if they're undocumented, or if there's certain other immigration statuses, but they are generally able to get in-state financial aid if they've got in-state tuition. As I think was mentioned at the beginning of our presentations, please type in any questions that you have into the box, and we'll make sure that we address them as we move along. So going into employment authorization. So this is when we're talking about when somebody has DACA. One of the big things that is a benefit of DACA is that it comes along with the chance to get what's called an EAD, an employment authorization document. So this document is what somebody can show to their employer once they get hired as an employee. And it serves as proof that they're eligible to work as an employee in the US. So as I'll get into in my next slide, not all people who are working are automatically employees. Somebody's working for themselves and they don't have a boss directly, then that means that, maybe they might not be an employee and they might not have this process. But if somebody is going to go work for, let's say, Northwestern Health Center or McDonald's or Menards, just to name a couple companies, they're probably going to end up being an employee, and they'll have to be asked to fill out what's called this I-9 form. And then specifically, I mentioned this I-9 because this is kind of the red flag of they're going to be checking my my employment authorization and whether somebody has an EAD or a green card. Or is a U.S. citizen and has a Social Security card. There's a lot of different ways to satisfy this I-9. What's important, though, is that once an employer is asking for this kind of proof, they can't discriminate against somebody based upon what kind of document that they give. So the federal government gives employers a pretty good list of different kinds of documents that they can accept. And because this employment authorization document, this EAD, is on that list, once an employer gets it, they can't ask any more questions. So it's really important to show this information and don't give any extra information unless it's really required. So if you have additional questions that your employer is asking you, like when did you come into the country, other things like that, you probably don't have to answer them, and so please call MALDEF or somebody else, and we'll be able to help see if there's something that is going wrong there. Once an employer actually verifies it for the first time, they shouldn't re-verify it unless it clearly had an expiration date or they're asking everybody to re-verify. So this is a really common source of discrimination where we see employers say, just to double check, we've asked for this before, let's see these documents again. And it's really, really limited how they can ask for more information. So in terms of beyond being an employee, so as I mentioned, not all employers, not all work involves employment. And a big opportunity for students who don't have employment authorization or others is that if they're not able to be if they're not working as an employee and they don't have to fill out this I-9, then they don't have to fill out the I-9. So a lot of this is what we're calling independent contractors, which is a legal term meaning somebody's not an employee. So how do we know that there's a difference? Well, let's say you're working for a company and you have to clock in every day. You're only working for that company and they give you a paycheck every week or even every 2 weeks. You're probably an employee because it's a long-term relationship and they're paying you directly for work that you do constantly. Versus somebody is hired to fix air conditioning, let's say, and they're fixing air conditioning for a lot of different companies. That means that they're probably more likely being an independent contractor. They're hired to do one specific thing, and they don't depend on that one company for their entire paycheck. So sometimes it's a fine line, but if somebody has their own business or is working for themselves, there is this opportunity to say they're not an employee, so they don't have to fill out this I-9 because they work for themselves. Really important, though, is that a company cannot hire somebody knowingly that they're not authorized to work. So if somebody has their own company and they're concerned about their status, the most important thing is just not providing that information, because once you say an information, then it's out there and it could cause complications. So really just give the bare minimum, the information you're required to give, but really don't go beyond because that could have consequences later on. In addition to that, if somebody is working for themselves, it's really important that they pay their taxes. And the way that somebody without a social security number pays taxes is with what is called an individual taxpayer identification number. So anybody who is in the United States can apply for one of these. It's an application made to the IRS, and it does not have any effect on somebody's immigration status by itself. So once somebody has an ITIN, it provides a source of information that you can then you can pay your taxes with it, which could create a record so that if somebody's immigration status changes in the future, that could be helpful. In addition to that, not paying taxes could be an additional thing that could get somebody in trouble with the federal government, regardless of what their immigration status is. So it's really a good idea to pay the taxes. And then finally, if somebody has an individual taxpayer identification number, it makes it easier for them to form what's called a business organization. So you probably will hear these things called corporations or LLCs. These are all different types of business organizations. They have different kinds of reporting. They cost different. But in essence, they're all the same in that somebody is creating this artificial entity to manage the business, to have all the liability, to pass along and pass through all the income. So it's really important to protect yourself in case anything goes wrong with your business. So it'll allow you to get insurance. It'll allow you to get, if you're going to buy tools, let's say you're in computer repair, and if things don't go well and you have a company, well, maybe it's the company that is responsible for the tools, not yourself personally. Versus if you just jump into business without a business organization and something goes wrong, you might end up having to pay everything out of your pocket. So it's really important to consider that. And there's always a risk if somebody's working for themselves that self-employment, it could be harmful in the future to changing somebody's status. We just don't know at this point. Everything it's seen so far has been that the Congress, when they passed these different laws, did not say that somebody could not work for themselves. So the plain language of the law is that it's not an offense. It's not a civil or a criminal offense for somebody to work for themselves without status. But the different federal agencies that administer it basically warn that that might not be the case in the future. So it is an option out there. Speak with an attorney if you have a lot of questions, and specifically in your situation as you're jumping into the business. But you should know that this definitely is weighing. What are the different kinds of things that could be harmful in the future. So in terms of professional licenses, like I mentioned, professional licenses are used so that individuals could could work in specific different kinds of different industries. So for instance, you need a professional license to work as a nurse. You need a professional license to work as a doctor. But if you're a receptionist at a company, perhaps you probably don't need a professional license. So this goes into the planning. So once you know what you're going to do, you'll know whether you need a professional license on the back end. And if you're planning for your career, it's better to know earlier rather than later, and speak with your guidance counselors and look to see what different college programs you might be interested in, because these are all different steps that will lead the way. It's not just somebody that applies and gets a cosmetology license. Somebody actually has to go to cosmetology school. They have to have a very strict set of courses that they have to take. And then at the end, the license is the final result. In Illinois, we have a law that was passed 2 years ago that says that somebody's immigration status is not a factor for most licenses. So the vast majority of licenses, like I mentioned, for doctors, nurses, cosmetologists, those are ones that don't require immigration status at all. There's a few ones that might involve, mining, natural resources. There's some things out there that still do require somebody to be at least a legal permanent resident. But for most of the ones in Illinois, that's not the case. But I do have to warn that even just because somebody can get a professional license in any of these different states, any of the different professions in Illinois. We do still have some concerns out there that some of them require fingerprint background checks. And so for instance, one of the ones is in nursing. So if somebody wants to become a nurse, I believe they will have to submit their fingerprints for a criminal background check in order to work in that profession, to get that license. And this is totally different from also employers that work in healthcare, or that, employers that have companies that work with children. There's a lot of other background checks that might be done later on. But for all of these, once somebody gives their fingerprints, those fingerprints are sent to the Illinois State Police to run a national background check. And they have to be shared with the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, because that's the way that they track national fingerprints. And what we don't know at this point is whether those different systems, could be viewed by ICE or other kinds of immigration officials. It's not by design. It's not to catch somebody because of their immigration status, but it's just that the criminal systems are so networked and federally that once somebody gives their fingerprints for this, this could raise a risk. So really think carefully, whether you might have an order of deportation, whether you might somehow be at risk. In other administrations federally, this wasn't as big of a concern because that there was more, thought given into really just making enforcement against people who have been convicted of serious crimes. But right now in the current environment, we just don't know how the information is used because it's not transparent. So really think carefully about these different licenses that require fingerprints. And then finally, just ask yourself, do you need a work authorization? Do you need a license? If you have major concerns about either one of those, then there could be other opportunities for you to work that don't require either of those. So if you want to do information technology, most of those don't require either work authorization or a license if you're working for yourself. So it is harder to work for yourself, but their opportunity is out there. And then finally, if you're either in Illinois and are looking to move to other states in the future, or if you came to Illinois for school and you might go back home to other states, this is a survey of some of the different states across the country to see that really Illinois does stand out in terms of access for immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, for licenses. But it really does, there are a lot of different options all across the country. So in California, Nevada, and Illinois, a person, for most of these licenses, there's no immigration status limitations. So for doctors in all of those, somebody can become a doctor, with DACA or without DACA. And without DACA, it's harder, and it does have some limitations because it would be very hard to work for a hospital. But it's still out there, some opportunity. In the states that are in kind of that teal, that bluish color, that is where a person's employment authorization is required, as is in New York State, that requires some kind of lawful presence. And it's really kind of debatable what that means because it's not really defined, but it probably means DACA or something similar to that. And then there's some other states, the ones that are that have crisscrossed on them, Florida and Pennsylvania and Arkansas. Those are the ones that are that have licenses specifically only for DACA recipients, and even then, only for certain licenses. So we definitely have come a long way in Illinois, in Nevada, and California. But in these other states, especially the grade ones that don't have any kind of accessibility, there's still a lot of advocacy needed to be done to bring the rest of the country in line. So with that, this is my contact information. My email address is smonroy@maldef.org. And this is our phone number to our Midwest regional office. And I will leave, I believe I can leave this up here, and then seeing if I have see if we've received any questions. Okay, am I right that there's no questions out there?
Correct. Thank you so much, Stephen, for that information and very valuable presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to those of you who have recently joined. We will be continuing with our program for today. Up next, we have our career panel comprised of several panelists. We also have our moderator for today's panel, who is Luis Narvaez. Luis is part of Chicago Public Schools. He was born and raised in Mexico City, Mexico, and came to the US at the age of 15 to attend high school. He graduated from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2003. He had a double major in Latin American and Caribbean Studies and Spanish. So also, part of our panel today, we have Uriel Montoya, president of Montoya Electric LLC. We have Giselle Rodriguez, who is development and social media organizer at the Chicago Workers Collaborative. We have Pablo Reyes Morales, who is currently an organizing coordinator for the city of Chicago. And then we also have Jesus Esquivel. He is OFA founder, president, and executive director, and a proud alumnus of the Chicago Public Schools. So I hand it off to you, Luis.
Thank you, Gabby, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to be part of this panel moderating with a group of outstanding panelists willing to share their experience and their expertise with our immigrant and refugee student population. I also want to just put a message out there to our immigrant and refugee student population that this is part of a larger context where we want you to start putting that mindset of being college and career ready. A lot of times in my own schooling, I was told to go to college, but I was never told why I should be going to college. And so now that I'm older, now that I'm an adult, I understand that it is important to prepare ourselves, to equip ourselves with the tools and the knowledge necessary in order to be able to pursue a job or a career afterwards. And so that is one of the reasons why we decided to put this panel together for all of you so that you know what we are trying to get at here. I know that someone's having trouble listening in. We do apologize, but we'll try to get to it. A lot of times it also helps if you want to go ahead and restart your Zoom application. Sometimes that also helps with that. I believe that we were going to have a slide. I don't know if Gabby or Nayeli have that slide that you could pull up for me as we move along this panel. Do either one of you have access to the slides?
Yes.
Thank you.
So here's the presentation of our panelists, just some brief bios that we are sharing, just so everyone can get a little bit of a sense of who is sitting on the panel. And then once the actual Q&A starts, the panelists will be sharing their video so we can all be able to better connect with everyone.
Perfect. So this time, Uriel, if you could share with us a brief introduction. Obviously, we can see here some of your background and credentials, but go ahead and tell us, we would like to hear from you directly, what has taken for you to get to where you are today, as well as, just some general tips to start off this panel discussion. And thanks for joining us. We know you're very good.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Uriel Montoya. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure my audio was working correctly. So as Luis said, my name is Uriel Montoya. I am president of Montoya Electric LLC. I am an immigrant, and I've been operating my company for 5 years, more or less. I came to the States when I was 2 years old. We first arrived in California and then eventually moved to Chicago. We were in California for about 2 years, but this was after the '86 Immigration Naturalization Act. So we weren't beneficiaries of that. So I grew up most of my life undocumented up until about 2012, which is when DACA was passed. And then I was documented for about another, 5 years. And so I got married and recently an LPR. I still identify as primarily immigrant. I grew up in Little Village in Chicago, which, as many of you may or may not know, it's largely immigrant, Mexican immigrant community. Attended Farragut Career Academy, a largely Black and brown school, and it still is. And, you know, growing up, you kind of learn to deal with inequalities in different ways. But for me, inequalities and differences were kind of highlighted when I went to U of I. Kind of the differences between race, class, and social inequalities is something that stood out and was highlighted when I attended U of I. So my major is actually in race and ethnic studies, and I have a master's degree in educational policies. Really briefly, I guess how I did a 360 turn into what I am doing now as a business owner is, even though DACA existed at that time after 2012 and after, and I benefited from that tremendously by being legally, you know, able to work. Some of the obstacles that you still find for people when I was in education and doing nonprofit work was that internships were still limited, right? And not all employment opportunities were open because it was very early. The program was very early. So it was really interesting to hear what Stephen was pointing out about, you know, the work that MALDEF does and organizations like MALDEF in kind of opening the doors. And there's still kind of ambiguity in some of those licenses and professional careers. But yeah, we have come a long way. But back to me, personally, I grew up in construction, and specifically my dad's an electrician. So when I found my career in education and in nonprofit to be challenging, I was able to transition. So that kind of knowledge and kind of growing up in construction really facilitated my process in obtaining my license to be a supervising electrician and registering my business once I had DACA. So briefly, that's kind of the trajectory that my career has taken. It's not necessarily, ordinary, but yeah, I'm more than willing to share anything that I have learned along the way, as an immigrant, as a business owner, and hopefully, we're able to share those experiences to benefit, future students and future immigrant populations after us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Uriel, for sharing that. As someone myself who was born and raised in Mexico and came here at the age of 15 to the Chicagoland area to attend high school, I definitely appreciate you sharing your trajectory. And I look forward to the questions that may come up from members of our audience today regarding your trajectory and the words that you have shared so far. Thank you so much. Next, we can have the slide for Giselle Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Go ahead and share with us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, of course. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Chicago. Just last Friday, I obtained my master's at the School of Social Service Administration, so my MSW. I am really passionate on education, immigrant rights, worker rights, everything that has to do with our population. I think specifically working with the youth, because that's, you know, who's going to develop the next 10, 20 years. So we depend a lot on them. And I think another thing that I'm mostly passionate about is equity and accessibility for education towards students, undocumented students without DACA, with DACA, because there are still a lot of students that do not have DACA. But just a little bit more about myself. I'm currently development social media organizer at Chicago Workers Collaborative. It is located in Pilsen. It's a nonprofit who primarily helps a lot of workers with discrimination, whether it be race discrimination or status, those type of things. We do a lot of protests and in support and actions so that they can have better working conditions. Again, most of the temporary workers are immigrant workers, so my work is mostly with immigrant families as well. Previously, I worked at ASAS, which is an organization located here in Waukegan. And again, mostly all my work has been with immigrant population. My experience is a little bit, my professional experience is a little bit different too. I do a lot of grant writing, so a lot of development, also social media, but I'm also a social worker. So I'm also in the schools with the children, doing all that type of stuff as well. So my professional experience is very, I guess, different, and it varies on what type of aspect I want to point. But yeah, so if there's any other questions, I think that's a little bit more about me. Again, I'm really focused on providing accessibility and equity towards the undocumented youth. As mentioned before by Uriel, internship was really, really difficult for me as well because of my status. So I would say that that's something we should keep reminding or keep telling our students that do want to proceed with a higher education, such as, you know, bachelor's or a master's, whatever it be, that internships might be a little difficult and tricky, and you just have to be prepared. And again, thank you, Stephen, for all that information. That is really, really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. I firmly believe that you're a great role model for our Latina students, for our immigrant youth, and for students in general. So we really appreciate you being part of this panel and sharing a little bit of background about yourself. Really, really appreciative of that. Next, we have the information for Pablo Reyes Morales. If you would like to introduce yourself, take it away.
Sure. So I'm Pablo. I'm from Morelia, Michoacán, Mexico. I came to the U.S., to Florida at the age of 13. I've actually worked nonstop for a while. I was a field worker, picking peaches, lettuce, grapes, and oranges in the fields of Florida and California. I was actually advised not to go to college. When I was in Florida in my high school, my counselor, my guidance counselor said that college was for documented people, not undocumented people. Which that was one of the instances that brought me to be what I am today. I am a management at a labor union. Also, my official title is organizing coordinator for SEIU in Chicago and in 5 states in the Midwest. Formerly organizing coordinator in California, political organizer for Troy Garcia's campaign here in Chicago, and 17 other manic races. Part of the trial to becoming an organizer is just to not believe the lies. the main lie here saying you cannot go to college, which afterwards I got involved in the immigrant rights movement that brought about DACA, being arrested a few times for civil disobedience and Capitol Hill, pushing Obama to make sure that he delivers executive order that brought DACA, and making sure that immigrant laws and across the states are implemented, immigration laws, and the beneficiary immigration laws, of course. Let's see, some of the things that I do as an organizer is in the time that we are living in right now for uplifting Black lives. I am part of the background organizing team for some of the marches that are happening in Chicago, but also in California and Texas and Arizona and in Florida. As an organizer, what we care most about is uplifting leaders and the voices of those affected. So a good leader is not the one that delegates duties, but the one that sparks courage in the leaders that will be showing us or guiding us in the social struggle that we all live in. Part of the organizing community organizing qualities that we do, but that we have to take into consideration all the time, is that we listen a lot, and listening as a skill. Part of the thing that we learn in college, but it's much more effective to learn in community. So listening as a skill is one of the things that brings about good organizing. And as good organizers, we try to implement it at all times. As an organizer, we have to be very fond of researchers, financial teams, economic systems, making sure that we develop strategies that have tactics on the ground and online and different in different areas. As a union organizer, what we care most about is contract negotiations with employers and with city officials. We spark a lot of pressure points, whether they be public, economic, being financial or private. A lot of pressure points to negotiate a contract are determined through the campaign that we develop through strategy, tactics, and a lot of escalation tactics to put pressure in. Yeah, I think that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you, Pablo. I can definitely attest, having lived in Michoacan myself, that Michoacan sends great individuals over to the United States, and we thank you for the activism and the work that you have done, and for sharing a very important topic, which is that sometimes our students are hearing that they cannot go to college or that they should not go to college. And if they don't have role models such as yourselves telling them, yes, you can, si se puede, they may not think about it that way. So thank you for sharing that. I think it speaks to a lot of what some of our students have been hearing in the past. Last but not least, I would like to see if we can put up the slide for Jesus Esquivel. And just on a personal note, I'm very thankful for Jesus' work and for his support of the CPS Dream Fund Scholarship, a scholarship fund that I help manage to support financial assistance to undocumented students at the Chicago Public Schools. Since the inception of the scholarship program, Jesus has been one of our strongest donors and advocates, and I just want to personally thank him for that. Jesus, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Luis, and everybody. Great information, and love to hear that we're part of this just group. And like you said, we have to always maintain a positive mindset, and si se puede. Yes, we can across everything, even though we know sometimes it's more challenging at times. So thank you. I am Opportunities for All. We are a not-for-profit education organization, and I founded the organization in 2011, but really started kicking off work in 2015. And so luckily, like I'm very proud to be the son of just immigrant parents. I was born in Mexico also. I came from Mexico at 2 years old in Tijuana, Mexico, and via through San Luis Potosí, finally came through California and Texas and got to Chicago, to the Brighton Park neighborhood, as we called them, the little village suburbs back then. So went to Davis Elementary School and Pershing and by Kedzie. And so after that went to Kennedy High School, and then went to City of Chicago, College of Chicago, went to Daly College. And then from there to Roosevelt University, where I did my undergrad and grad work. I tell people I'm so proud that I was able to get the CPS experience, the City Colleges of experience, and it was a great value to me in the work, especially that I'm doing now. I had the privilege of working at CPS for 9 years, and the Office of Language and Culture, and the Office of Teaching and Learning with the arts as well. So helping other start not-for-profit organizations and really doing the work that is really important in our communities. And so with Opportunities for All, what we do is we focus on student programs out of school time, morning, afternoon, weekend, summer work, providing a variety, the arts, education, STEM, fitness. So maybe we've probably done it. We also work with teachers to provide teacher professional development, because in this day and age, it's more important now for teachers to understand us, right? To really understand how our immigrant communities work and value that, see that as a major asset, right? So I think we're helping in that fight to really bring what you hear, cultural competency. What does that really mean, right? How do you get to our students, to a little Jesus Esquivel that was at Davis Elementary, right? To really impact us. And we also work with parents and families. It's so important. So many times our parents and families are just not seen as that important partner, and they are. The most important thing, I think many would agree, that the most important part, sometimes if we're fortunate enough to have that strong family bond, for me, it was my mom, right? It was always there for me, and that's why even within our staff, it's 95% female, and out of that, I said they're lucky they let me be the boss, right? But they're very strong and very powerful women who were all former moms, who were volunteers in CPS, and we just were able to do so much with the work, and they motivate other parents and moms to do the work that we do now. Like I said, what motivated me was my brother, who God rest his soul, was through CPS as well, and he unfortunately passed away at the age of 23. But he was a school teacher. He went from Chicago to a small school in Iowa, and in a short time made a strong impact. But I knew I was going to go to school. Now, I went to Kennedy. I had a very not so good GPA, but I knew I was going to go to college. Why? Just because he went. He said that was a logical next thing to do. I didn't know how. So, in terms of, I went to Daly College, and I had a wonderful experience there that motivated me, get a scholarship, go to Roosevelt. And after that, and going to CPS and being exposed to some wonderful people and work, I seen that government can work, right? If we put the effort in it, but also know that government sometimes needs to be challenged a little bit. And so I help create Opportunities for All. And we've been luckily working with over 30 schools and districts to provide real work in the schools with their students, teachers, and parents and families. So the success I've had has not been just because obviously I was motivated by my brother, my parents, my family, but the opportunities that other people have given us. So everybody putting this the conference together today is just a testament of all the work that can be done. And thank you again, Luis. I know Luis has been a leader throughout, always helping us and bringing people together. And so everybody that's helped bring this together today, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesus, for that. I really appreciate it. As a reminder to our attendees, if you have a question or comment, please make sure to use the Q&A chat function found on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen so that we can pass those questions along to our panelists. One question for our panelists to start off, and some of you have already touched upon this, but it's the whole idea of the process of selecting a college to go to. In my personal case, as an attendee of the University of, or as a student at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, one of the biggest hurdles that I had to navigate was trying to explain to my mother this idea of going to college, one, far away from home, but two, at a place that was more expensive than what she was making at work. And so kind of like having to explain the process for scholarships, for the limited financial aid that I could have qualified for in the absence of FAFSA. So my question to our panelists is, go back to yourself when you were 16, 17, 18 years of age. How did you navigate the process of selecting the college that you decided to enroll at? What was some of the hurdles that you had to navigate that if you could share now with our current high school students, they can use that as advice so that if there's ways to make that transition easier for them, they can follow on your footsteps or learn from the things that you went through. So again, the basic question is not only what college did you decide to go to, but how was that whole process of deciding college, both at home and at school with your counselor or whoever else you might have been working with or a teacher. So anyone that wants to start with us sharing with us that process you went through to choose a college.
I can go first. Well, for me, I attended community college for 2 years. I think that was a really smart decision for myself because I didn't have too much money. And I was able to receive a lot of help from my parents the 2 years that I was here. The one thing I would say is that I went to community college right after high school, and I didn't really pay too much attention to applying to scholarships like the end of my senior year for community college. So everything that I paid for community college was out of pocket with the help of my parents. But that, again, it was really affordable for us to do so. So it was out of pocket. But then I transferred to NEIU, so Northeastern Illinois University, which is a four-year university. However, it is still affordable. It was, more expensive than what community college would be. So then what I did was apply to a lot of scholarships. And that's basically how I managed undergrad and graduate school as well. I was able to get scholarships every semester at NEIU from the university or outside scholarships that supported undocumented students. So if you would like to take anything away from me speaking, is apply to scholarships. The more you apply to scholarships, the more chances you increase yourself to getting more money. Especially for undocumented students, it's really, really hard. So I would say apply to scholarships, but also just in general, just research and be open to speaking maybe with your counselor and the financial department to see what kind of aid they give. If their scholarships are not open to all students, so then that you can be aware and know what other thing you have to do. But that's basically undergrad. Well, my 2 years at NEIU, everything scholarship. Again, at the University of Chicago, I applied for a scholarship. I was blessed to receive about $65,000 there too, because it's really expensive. So again, my view would be that I know I did want to attend college. I did know that I wanted to better myself. The education was really important, and it was instilled in me since I was young by my mother. As mentioned, we have strong mothers that encourage us a lot. So I knew that I had to find a way to attend college. But again, my first 2 years, I'm not sure what I was thinking then, but my first 2 years of community college, I did not apply to any scholarships. But then but then I knew I could no longer just depend on my parents, and I had to find a way. And, you know, if you don't get one scholarship, then you probably get upset, or, you know, te deprimes, or, you know, whatever. But then, you know, the more scholarships you apply, the more you increase your chances. And, you know, once you get accepted into one scholarship, it kind of just gives you, you know, more hope to continue your studies and to continue to apply for scholarships. So I would say, be really smart about what the university offers for you, in terms of financial, but also their feeling, if it feels like home, if they're really welcoming. I would say it was a big transition for me from being at NEIU, and then to transition to University of Chicago, which is predominantly white. At NEIU, I felt like home. There were a lot of undocumented students just like me, and the support was amazing. So you just have to take into consideration where you would want to be, financial, and I guess the most important thing, if you feel welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And two things I want to highlight, and I'm going to repeat this a couple of times. It is perfectly fine to start your post-secondary education at a community college or a city college. I know a lot of our students sometimes find themselves in high school settings where they start hearing where everyone's gonna go off to college, right? And you hear out of state, you hear private Ivy Leagues, and that might, you know, set our students back emotionally and mentally, just saying, you know, I'm here planning to go to Harold Washington or Daly College. So once again, I just want to reemphasize, there is nothing wrong with attending community college, city college first, particularly now with the opportunities available through the Chicago Star Scholarship, where eligible students can start off city college free of charge, free of tuition, free of fees and books. And this includes undocumented students as well. So thank you very much for sharing that. I think it's important that our students understand these different pathways. Can I have another presenter just share with us how they went about deciding the college to attend, and perhaps to the major that you decided to pursue?
I can chime in, Luis. So for me, in my experience of how I chose to go U of I went to U of I in Champaign-Urbana, directly out of high school. I think I was blessed in that my older sisters had already kind of paved that way for me. And so when I knew or thought of universities, I thought of U of I because that's what I knew. You know, me growing up in Little Village, my typical experience was, you know, I understood the neighborhood, and outside the neighborhood, you know, you're not exposed to very much at a young age, at a high school age. So when I was applying, I applied there. I applied to UIC, and I can't remember, maybe a couple of other schools. U of I was the one that kind of responded first, and so I chose to go there because of that. And in retrospect, I largely think is because of how familiar I was with it. As far as major, I think just in a predominantly white campus, I think the differences were very apparent in my high school education and my community to what everyone else in the campus was coming in with. So I think naturally one feels maybe underprepared and kind of it starts to ask questions about, you know, why one's experience was maybe a lower quality in education. So that was kind of my interest became kind of a passion about exploring and understanding educational inequalities, and really, you know, trying to think of ways that could be changed, or being involved in that system that I felt like I was given an opportunity, you know, to take part of, and I didn't want to waste. At the same time, you know, every summer or every winter going back to, you know, the neighborhood in Chicago and kind of getting taken away from that kind of gives you perspective in things. So for me, you know, those are kind of the ways that my career shaped up and my my interest in education. And it's and I guess the more you think about it, it's also the lack of opportunities sometimes is what leads us to different choices that we make. So it's kind of a contrast between both of those. This is how I got to my career and U of I, my decision to go to U of I.
Thank you for sharing that, Uriel. I think that's the perfect example that there is no one single pathway for students to be able to enroll in college. You have to adapt it to whatever your needs are, your desires are, what's presented in front of you, but also what you're willing to do. So thank you for sharing that. Pablo, if I can go to you next. When students may hear the career title organizer, they may say, well, there's not such a major in college. However, a lot of different majors can lead to a career in organizing. Can you tell us how you got to that, and what advice would you have for a high school student thinking about a career in organizing?
So there's 2 colleges that I know of that offer a major in organizing. And one is in Texas and one is in New York. So if you want to major in organizing, there's your states. I think, I initially wanted to be a software engineer. And the only reason why I became an organizer was because I was fed up with everything. And I wanted to do something about it. So I think career in organizing, as some careers, it's more of a lifestyle. You have to be willing to not be afraid of failure. But in organizing, we do something that is called fail forward, which means just keep trying everything that you can. But the benefit of your work has to always have the anchor of many and not you, which is really, really, really hard to do. As organizers, again, good organizers are not the ones that are seeking benefit for themselves, but benefit for the leaders and everybody that the work touches. So if you are looking into a career into organizing, I think one of the first things to ask yourself is, are you content with how things are? Are you fine with how, I think Giselle mentioned earlier, how it's so difficult to find financial aid for undocumented students? Are you content with that? Are you content with having to have specific webinars to make sure that you know what are the things that you need to do to go to college? If you're not, then give organizing a try. As we organize towards making sure that we have better benefits, a better economy, we always try to make sure that the most segregated, the most oppressed are uplifted. And this time we are uplifting Black lives, and how we as Latinx organizers continue the work to uplift Black lives. One of the things that we're monitoring as Latinx organizers is the DACA decision from the Supreme Court. Today was one of the days that they were going to bring it out. Thursday will be the next time. But as organizers, we have to make sure that we are always on top of the information, always on top of creativity of offering proposals on what to do if a decision is the wrong decision, and make sure that we know that it's a wrong decision, and that's a very, very tough thing to do on how to distinguish between right and wrong when it's at the statue of impacting our community, but also the country. So I think one of the things that pushed me to be an organizing was just the mere fact to know that as undocumented people, most of the time we are treated as subhumans. And I grew tired of that. And I think most of the panelists here are clear examples of fighting against that stigma and making sure that we do something against it. Yeah, I hope that was a good answer, helpful answer.
Absolutely, thank you. And I know that Nana had asked for us to share our presenters' contact information, so we'll make sure at some point to send that out to people who register via our Eventbrite link. And if folks have questions about the colleges you mentioned offering a major in organizing, I think that'll be great for them to be able to contact you and reach out to you. Thank you for that. Jesus, can you tell us what are some highlights and perhaps what are some of the hurdles of pursuing a career in the nonprofit sector?
Sure. I tell people I also accidentally fell into the not-for-profit area. And literally when I finished Roosevelt, my bachelor's, and it was in business management, and I just wanted a job. I just wanted to work. I threw out my resume everywhere, and I was like, a ver quién me habla, let's see. And so I did start at a small not-for-profit back then, and then went into CPS. But I really, in between that, I had a small stint at a business, and it was a large corporation. But I knew by lunchtime of that day that I did not want to do that. That was not my calling. And usually people say, oh, you know what you want to do. I don't think all of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we really don't know what to do until we do it. And not-for-profit gave me that flexibility that it wasn't a set rules of this is how you do things, A, B, C, and D. It was let's define the outcome and let's figure out how to get to it, knowing that you have some leaders in the field to tap into. So definitely to get into not-for-profit, you have to be flexible. You have to be open. You have to learn how to listen to many voices, even if you disagree with them, right? And say, let me look at that. You have to be an initiator. If I'm very honest with my team and said, if you're the type of person that's just sitting back and waiting, that's not gonna work. A veces dicen mejor perdón que permiso, right? So in order to be successful not-for-profit, know that you're going in there not to make a lot of money. What, right? If you're thinking about that's not the field, right? Two, know that you can make change, right? You may have to work with people you don't respect their opinions at the time. Or you have to work with others. You say, I don't agree, I don't like that. But one thing that it allows you to do and allows us to really focus on is say, I want to make this change. People ask me, how'd you get to Opportunities for All? That's such a generic, right? And it was because I was frustrated as a CPS student that because I wasn't that A student, I was not given opportunities as the A+ students got. So I was like, wait a minute, how come everybody doesn't have an opportunity, right? And so that's became the basis for that. But I tell people, not-for-profit can be very rewarding if you put in all the hard work and effort and hours. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of hours, takes a lot of research, takes some time to really say, I want to offer this after-school program, but they're not letting me offer how to do it. How do we get in the door first, right? And then make that change. So I think you asked the question of the organizer, there's organizing school. There is not-for-profit degrees to do it, but I say this, if you want to get into not-for-profit, start off somewhere, an internship, right? Somewhere where you're going to be like, yes, I just don't want to make copies. Throw me out there, right? If you don't feel comfortable with your language, oh, I don't know that much Spanish, right? Do it, just try, and people will see that. The most important thing I learned is I need to talk to people. I need to talk to parents, teachers, students, university folks, everybody to be successful in the career path that is not-for-profit, be it workforce development, be it education, be it housing, is talk and listen to others. Then use that education, that brain that's been given to us to really say, aha, I can use everything else and really conquer that challenge before me. And to me, that's always been giving our kids, our parents, our teachers further chance through the work that we do.
Thank you so much. I agree, and I hope this is resonating with students in that, you know, you have to explore different things. You have to be truthful and honest to yourself if something is not working, and you know, not to be afraid to hit the reset button and start all over again looking for something else. So thanks for sharing that, Jesus. Giselle, a question I have for you was, being myself Latino, Mexican, I think I find it sometimes within our culture is really hard to ask for help. It is really hard to seek out that help, that assistance, asking that adult to assist us, to help us, perhaps even looking for a mentor. In the pathways that you've navigated, how have you dealt with this notion that we shouldn't be asking, this wrong notion that we shouldn't be asking for help, and how the help that you have pursued has helped you move forward in your career, in your development?
I think it came to mind when I think it was Uriel who mentioned that he was the oldest, so that his sister had already created a path for them to attend college. Then I kind of just thought of myself like, I'm the oldest. So I didn't really have, you know, someone in my family that has attended college with the same barriers that undocumented students face. So I think as far as navigating college, I was, even just about like undocumented, I was, you know, the first one from my family, fue la primera. So I was the first one from my family. So, you know, applications, you know, with my parents' information, just, you know, everything that had to deal with the whole college process. It was all new to us. It was all new to me. I think as an undocumented student, it is a scary feeling to ask for help. And then, you know, allowing others to know of your status, what that means, what that entails, how they can help you is also very scary. And I understand that's why too many students did not want to do that as well. Throughout my life and through friendships that I have made, some of my colleagues and just friends did not applied for DACA because they were really scared. They had the opportunity and they were eligible, but they were also very worried. And again, it just goes all back to like what we all face differently and the different opportunities that we have. And just like, as you mentioned, like what mentors are there in your life? How are you able to get to where you want to be if nobody else has done it, right? So I think it's really hard for someone to do that if they do not have other people around them that, you know, think alike or that are there to help them. Again, for me, I was able to, I guess, you know, navigate it myself and just error and trial. However, I did have you know, in community college, I did meet other students in my classes that were undocumented. So from there, then that you build that connection. But remembering back to my first semester of community college, I was scared. You know, as everybody else, when it's your first day of college, you know, you're scared and nervous. But even though for me to find others within, you know, my circle or my class that, you know, look like me, that have the same story, that tells a lot, and it just kind of brings more and more support. But from there, I actually made a really good friend. So it's about, I think, my second semester of community college. But, you know, my friend was already leaving to a four-year university. So again, she then became my mentor. I kind of followed her footsteps into NEIU and to SSA. So that person then, you know, at first I did not have anyone, but those great relationships that you bring, they become your mentors. And that's basically what I do, and what I would want to do is whatever it is that I have dealt with in my life, and if I can help you, you know, use me. I can tell you everything about my journey in my life so that I can help you. Did I answer your question? I know sometimes I can talk a lot, but please let me know if I answered your question.
Thank you. No, you did. I really appreciate your answer. I think, sometimes we gotta find those groups. At Chicago Public Schools now, a lot of our high schools have undocumented student clubs, oftentimes referred to as dreamer clubs. And so that's a space where students should feel safe to navigate and to discuss and to talk to allies, such as our counselors and teachers that we have in those spaces. And you also highlighted something that is very important, which is it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel nervous. I myself cried multiple times throughout the process of navigating my transition from high school onto college, and then from college onto a career. And, I was raised with this wrongful notion that in Spanish we say, los hombres no lloran, men don't cry. Totally bogus, totally false. And so at times I tell students, you're gonna feel like that, and it's okay, it's part of that process, but reaching out, asking for help, it's very important as well. So I think you did a great job answering that. Thank you so much, Giselle. Uriel, a question for you is, if you were to speak to a current high school student right now, what steps would you recommend they take to start preparing not only for college, but for a career, for something that they can consider doing for the rest of their lives, especially someone who might have not been born in this country?
Mm-hmm. I think it was Jesus who said this earlier. You kind of don't know what you want to do until you're doing it. So it's hard, and I think the pressure of being like 17, 18, being undocumented, and then still having to make a life decision about what you're gonna do for the rest of your life is a difficult one. So I would say be kind to yourself, explore any interests you do have. Be resilient. I think sometimes we find ourselves in career choices that we pursue because we're passionate about, because we are interested in, and that's perfectly okay. I think that is what we should be doing. But just know that there's always going to be choices that may make you want to change in career. At least that's what happened to me. I went back to construction, doing what is also a passion of mine, something that is project based, that I can, as a president of my company, I can run a business at the same time, be involved in other things that bring fulfillment to me, like being involved with nonprofits as in the board of directors, or volunteering for different causes. So I would say it's not, I wouldn't take on the full pressure of making or feeling like you're making a life decision, but definitely explore your interest. Whatever decision you do make, try to be the best at it, whether it's something in trades, whether it's something in nonprofit world, whether it's something in any industry. I think part of our shared and our collective immigrant experience is being able and having to put ourselves out there. So I would just encourage that as much as possible. I think definitely the panelists and the people that help organize this have different experiences with immigration and as immigrants. So I think we're here to share what we know. I'm here to share anything about my business or that journey as an entrepreneur. I'm willing to share as much as possible. So I guess that's the advice that I would give to high school student trying to make that decision right now.
Thank you very much for that, Uriel. I also want to remind our students that we will be having, we're not done with this panel yet, but just as a reminder, we will be having 2 additional days of sessions. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're going to be discussing how to obtain money for college. And at 1 p.m., we'll be talking about the process of financing your education through the city colleges of Chicago. That is tomorrow, Tuesday, at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then on Wednesday, we'll be discussing immigration at 10 a.m. as well as how to advocate for yourself. And at 1 p.m. Wednesday, we'll be talking about mental health for immigrants. So great topics coming up. Don't forget to check them out. If you did not sign up for them, you can go back to the Eventbrite link you received to complete the registration for those sessions as well. And tell others about it too, please. This is open to all students at the Chicago Public Schools, as well as advocates that work with these student communities. So please keep that in mind as well. Pablo, we have a question here that I don't know if you would feel comfortable asking. The question is from Juan, and it says, do you think DACA will come back? And I think that is a very important question because the current generation of high school students were too young to have qualified for DACA before the application for first-timers was closed. And they were also too young to remember a time where we did not have DACA, yet us immigrants were able to move forward and navigate different spaces. So in speaking to Juan's question, if you have any insight as to the future of DACA, but also more generally speaking too, how can an undocumented immigrant without DACA advocate for him or herself in the career world?
Well, I think it's Juan. Thank you for the question, Juan. I think I just want to reiterate that DACA is not a goodwill gesture of the government. Obama didn't just wake up one day and say, "I like these kids. I'm gonna give this to them." It took a lot of organizing, arrests, going to jail, making sure that we met with legislators, and pushing in every single college. We actually developed this thing called Coming Out of the Shadows, where we would declare on college campuses, I'm undocumented and I'm unafraid. And that was the first thing to get a wave of activism going to make sure that DACA wasn't active. But DACA was the pinnacle or the climax of a lot of organizing and strategy behind it. Before it, we were pushing for the DREAM Act. And I think that's why a lot of folks are calling themselves or ourselves dreamers, right? Of people that wanted to be beneficiaries of the DREAM Act. But we're moving away from the good immigrant, bad immigrant narrative. That if I go to college and I get an education, then I'm a good immigrant, but everybody else that doesn't is a bad immigrant. So I think just to go back to your question, is DACA going to come back? That really depends on you, Juan. That depends on everybody that's in this panel and everybody that's on the attendees. It took, again, a lot. I myself was arrested 3 times during the DACA times, and actually the day that I get released, that morning we got a call from Washington, D.C. saying that Obama was going to announce DACA that day. So what I can say is that to be an organizer, you don't have to have the title of being an organizer, a paid organizer. You just have to have the will, las ganas, right? If you have that, and then you don't have to ask yourself, is DACA going to come back? You just have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do to make sure that DACA comes back? And I just want to finish the answer with, there's a lot of laws that are wrong that we need to challenge. We challenge them through organizing. We challenge them through activism. But DACA and citizenship are not the end goal. DACA and citizenship are not going to give you dignity. DACA and citizenship are not going to give you the value that you have. That value you search and you earn for yourself through education, through trial and error. Although DACA and citizenship are great things to have, they're just stepping stones. So I want to be clear that I don't want to misinterpret that we're fighting for DACA and citizenship as the end goal. We're fighting for dignity for everybody. So if organizing, or if you want to fight for dignity for everybody, then I welcome you into the world of organizing.
Thank you for that, Pablo. I really appreciate it. And before I jump to Jesus, as we wrap this up, I want our panelists to start thinking about just a one or two lines that you would leave our participants with in terms of words of advice as they're navigating their high school years, thinking about college, thinking about a job, thinking about everything currently, presently taking place right now in the US. Just what words would you leave them with? And also, if you're okay with providing your contact information or even your LinkedIn profile page, if you're okay with that, then you can also start typing that in here. Jesus, Melissa left a comment that is very important, which is that when students get to college, they get to meet with some professionals that work in the career services offices that can also help them find the different interests and match those interests with jobs and careers. As someone that has been mentoring students and graduates yourself, Jesus, what do you think are some of the advantages of seeking out that help, that assistance from such services and from mentors like yourself?
I think it's actually a little bit of both, because in my case, right, in high school, like I said, it wasn't of much help, because I think the focus at that time was, okay, we're going to get the A's and B students, and maybe the C's and D students weren't that, right? They don't want to go, right? Now in college, it was a little bit different, where I did my career advisors, ask real questions, right? It was deep. It was beyond the what I think what Daly gave them as the 20 questions they should ask. So I think they were very real, and they wanted to find out about me as a person, what you really like, so it was a deeper conversation. Now, what I tell the young people that work for me, or that I meet, right, including family members, is you get that question of, what do you want to do 5 years from now? You're like, oh, I don't want to know what I want to do a month from now. But meaning it is, I ask the person, like, what really makes you happy? What puts a smile on your face, or what makes you feel good inside? And in terms of that, you only get through conversation, right? Be it if you're a career advisor, if you give people time and let them talk. And so sometimes it's hard for people to really talk about themselves, really, and to say, oh, this is kind of like what I was thinking, because they might not want to tell you the whole truth. They think like, oh, well, no, you're not going to understand. And you're like, try me. So I tell people, like, if you want to make money, say that. Just say, I really want to have this big house, right? And I want to be able to go to Hawaii, right? 5 times, So all those things, I think, is true honesty. And so what I also tell our young folks, and also career advisors, that put them in real situations that are going to expose them. To me, I don't look at age, color, anything. I look at, let's try this out, right? Let's see what you draw from that that experience. So the big thing I've been saying is that listen to people, right? Let them get deep in, as many organizers know. What's the number one for organizers? One-on-ones, right? That's the major thing in digging deeper. Let them speak their own experience, their own truths, and put them in areas where they're able to see the true work. Sometimes we don't do that because we feel that they're not prepared, they're not ready. Well, how would they ever be if we don't give them the reality? of how it is. Sometimes they're like, no, but we don't want them to see behind the curtain, right? No, let them see what the realities of life, but prepare them, give them context to everything, because life is tough. They know that. But it's with listening, real experiences, and not hiding what the world is about, because we know when we do hide truths, we know what happens. So just hopefully that helps out.
Thank you, Jesus, for that. I want to thank everyone for attending. Before we head off, I want to go through each one of our panelists and ask them if they can just share a line or two of words of advice that they will have for our high school participants here. So, Giselle, if we can start with you, what would be your departing words?
Thank you. I think I just want to go back to what you asked before about students, just talking about students not having DACA and if DACA will come back. I don't have DACA. I wasn't eligible for DACA. I've navigated my whole, I guess, career life without DACA up until, as I mentioned, my master's and my professional path as well. So if anybody has any questions about that, again, úsenme, use me. I'm here to help. So whatever you can take from me, I'm really happy to share with. I guess some words of advice would be to never give up. We are taught or conditioned to live with fear, and it is really unfair to keep living with fear. So I would say that if you have dreams and goals that you want to achieve in your life, go do it. A document or los papeles is not going to dictate whether you should or shouldn't. It all comes from you and from your heart, whether what you want to do or not. So I would say just because you don't have DACA or do have DACA, or you feel that certain barriers are positioned in your life, don't think that you cannot overcome those barriers. So I would say, reach for the stars, the skies, and yeah, just always, do whatever it is that you want to do that's in your heart. Again, don't be discouraged because of those barriers. It would make you more resilient once you overcome those. Thank you.
Thank you for those two comments. We really appreciate having you here. So, Uriel, what would be some departing words from you for our participants?
I guess if you leave with anything, is that the decisions that you make, whether it's community college, four-year institution, starting your own business, or corporate America, whatever you decide, don't doubt that you belong there and that you have earned your right to be there and prosper in that industry. And then lastly, also don't forget where you come from. In moments where you kind of need to step back and need extra motivation, or things get really challenging, take that step back and appreciate the long way that you've come. Be able to celebrate that and be able to use that as motivation and as an impulse to keep going to the next step or the next challenge or whatever is up ahead for them. So yeah, with that, I'll say goodbye and good luck for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Uriel, for those words. Yeah, we should never give up. Pablo, what would be some departing words from you?
I think don't forget to be disciplined. Anything that you decide to do would require you to be obsessed of proving people wrong, and be obsessed of helping others. Yeah, and challenge everything that you think is wrong. Question everything. Do not just take that's the way it is as an answer. And I think that through those questions in your head, through those challenging moments, you'll be able to forge not only a good future, but a good community around you. I think that's it.
Thank you, Pablo. You have been right on point. Jesus, some final words to share with our participants?
Sure. I would say that don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't. If I would have listened to that, if we listened to that, then we wouldn't all be here, I think, together at this point. And most important thing that my family taught me, coming from a small little pueblo in Mexico with no more than 100 people, was be humble, right? Look at life as an opportunity, and that change is possible, but it's going to through hard work and actions. So living that the most important part of my life, my person that just changed me and kept me straight, was my grandma, who was 94 years old when she passed away. Could barely read and write, but from her I learned everything that I am today. So maintaining that hope and that optimism that even she's instilled, because it's be humble, look at life as an opportunity, right?
Thank you, Jesus. Muchísimas gracias a todos nuestros panelistas. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules on a Monday to join us. Thanks to the students who jumped in this webinar. We really appreciate you. As a reminder, we will be having additional sessions with other topics this coming days, so make sure to register for those. Thank you also to our partners at the City Colleges of Chicago for providing this wonderful platform. If either Gabby and Nayeli would like to jump in and say a few departing words, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're doing virtual clapping for our panelists for doing such a great job with this career panel for immigrant and refugee students. Thank you so much. Anything else that our City College partners would like to share?
Thank you so much, Luis. Thank you everyone on the panel for your inspiring words. We are all leaving the summit today feeling inspired by your stories, by the information that was presented by Stephen of MALDEF, by Alexandra. And yes, so please continue to spread the word about the upcoming agenda for tomorrow and for Wednesday. Thank you everyone for your time, and we hope that you enjoyed and share the information that you received today.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.